Life is meaningless. Cold opens are meaningless. Enjoy basketball.
Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 6 of WNBA Retrospect, our annual summer scouting series, breaking down the pre-draft film of WNBA legends. Today, we'll talk about Jasmine Thomas, the number 11 overall pick in the 2011 draft out of, forgot what school? Do you remember, Em? What school?
Chapel Hill?
Cool. I don't know.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3 free week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is Hunter Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA Draft and Prospect Scouting. I'm joined by my co-hosts M. Adler and Lincoln Shafer. M covers the WNBA with a focus on player development and the game within the game. Lincoln also contributes to our draft coverage here at the Next and Locked On Women's Basketball. To start, Jasmine Thomas played at Duke from 2007 to 2011. Over this time period, she averaged 12.4 points, 3.3 assists, 3.4 rebounds on 38% from the field, 40% from 2, 34% from 3. A good starting point.
Yes, she is.
So stupid.
Have you seen Jasmine Thomas's freshman stats, and have you seen how she recorded more blocks than free throws made as a 5'8" guard in a single season?
That's the least surprising thing you could have possibly told me about Jasmine Thomas.
So fun fact, if you only count her junior and senior seasons, she averages 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.5 steals.
Which to be clear, before you give the end of that, in a Joanne P. McCallie system is equivalent to putting up like 25 and 5 at UConn.
Yeah. Once you account for the Duke stagflation, it's like 7 points per game more.
But what were you going to say about the undergrad seasons? I assume that's where you were going.
Well, they're less good.
Yeah.
Notably. There you go.
Shout out to Jasmine Thomas for having notable strengths that make her a very obvious WNBA level player, and also some glaring weaknesses that make her not a superstar level WNBA player.
Right. Jasmine Thomas might be the easiest scout I think I've ever seen. In terms of all the players we've done here. And like we've done great players, obviously, and we've done obviously bad players. I shouldn't say obviously bad players. I don't think we've actually done any bad players. We've done obviously mid players, and we've done like the greatest players of all time. And they've all had sort of complications, or they've all had sort of idiosyncrasies. Jasmine Thomas is like the platonic ideal of just like, what if you could pass, shoot, and defend, and nothing else?
I feel like on this...
The finishing process is the only word that I can think of that I wrote down was baffling.
I actually thought the process was like, I didn't think the process was too bad, but like I've never seen anyone who has had a lesser ability to decelerate. Like
she doesn't get all the way to the rim a lot of times either.
But I think she doesn't get to the rim because she knows she can't slow down if she gets any closer.
But then it's like her floater, like I saw her airball a floater. She's overshot them floaters. I just don't think that was like a great part of her game either.
She's just getting to 8 feet and throwing the ball at the rim.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not like I think in the course of watching her, to me, it did not necessarily seem like she wanted to get to 8 feet and just chuck some shit up, but it was more along the lines of, I have to take a shot here, and I can't create anything else. Which, like, is kind of tough. It's not great when the only, like, basically, you have Chelsea Gray on the team, which notably good player. You have Karima Christmas-Kelly, who is a very good sort of off-ball wing, and you have Jasmine Thomas, who also, like, very clearly, immediately is like, oh, this is a great off-ball player. Like, she's an excellent cutter, and I think that stands out, like, immediately. But then it's like, oh, okay, we're just going to give her like 30% usage on the ball. Good luck.
I think that she probably, to my eye, it looked like she shot 37% you could drop her any place on the point, any point on the court between 6 feet from the rim and 26 feet from the rim, and she'd shoot 37% on 100 attempts from there, is what it looked like to me.
That's about how her numbers went. I mean, if you look at the form, like her core stability and her shoulder alignment on like pull up threes is like better than it is on mid range shots. Yeah. Which, like, look, if I gotta pick one of those two, I'm gonna pick the 3-pointers. Mm-hmm. But also, if I'm a WNBA general manager in the year of our Lord 2011, which means I've had a partial lobotomy, then I probably would prefer it the other way around.
Yeah.
I feel like on this episode, I'm just going to be lower on just about every area, maybe besides the defense. But like, one thing I was like very fascinated by Jasmine Thomas is that she's a below average free throw shooter, below average from 2. So I was like, let me throw this through her hoop stats. Let me see any players that have averaged or shot less than 70% from the line and less than 40% from 3 on like 3 2-point attempts, then 3 free throw attempts. This list includes, this is Power 5 seniors, a bunch of names I've never heard of, and then Deja Kelly.
Okay, actually, to be fair, I have a couple comps for JT, and I thought we'd get to these later. However, since you bring that up, one of the comps is if Deja Kelly was an 8 athlete and a 6 shooter. That is SIX, not SICK shooter.
I mean, a 6 shooter is a 6 shooter.
Not to be confused with the Old West 6 shooter.
Right, yeah. Jasmine Thomas, the shooting is incredibly projectable to me.
The footwork and the power transfer are awesome. It's kind of a herky-jerky release. Not jerky, but like the elbow kind of, the elbow kind of juts out, so it looks kind of funky at first, but like the power transfer is great. It's repeatable. It's very quick.
She's got a high release and gets rid of it quick, which is going to help you make a lot of spot-up attempts. Very, very solid. I don't think she's a visionary playmaker like maybe one of her teammates is, and kind of overshadows her play at times.
Oh yeah, Crystal Thomas.
But yeah, exactly. But she makes consistent good decisions with the ball. Yeah,
my note on her was basically like she has really good passing ability. She can make very accurate passes. She has very nice velocity, even off the dribble, even off the jump. There's really not much playmaking vision there. She's basically she's really good at getting the ball where it needs to go, and she will make the right read and the right decision, which that is what I would call like an off-ball point guard. That's how you talk.
Yeah, like for me, I thought a lot of times there was just predetermining of reads. Like when you watch her versus Chelsea Gray and the way they like manipulate defenders, it was just like completely different. Like, I think with Jasmine Thomas, there were some times where she would just predetermine things to the point where like the defender could just easily jump the passing lanes, easy transition finish. But I thought in transition, her playmaking, what she could do offensively was pretty impressive, though.
Yeah.
There's like 3 people in the history of basketball who can do what Chelsea Gray does with the ball, though.
That is true. That is true.
That's generous.
And that's counting like Magic Johnson, Chris Paul, and Luka Doncic. That's like it.
Wow, Nikola Jokic still slander.
Yeah. Yep. As we've established.
This is an anti-Serbian podcast.
Yeah.
I think Jokic has been brought up on like 2 straight pods or like 3 straight pods.
It's not my fault. It's Evan's fault.
After the break, let's talk about some defense. Jasmine Thomas's defensive profile. And then we'll also get into our scouting grade on her. As the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports stop sporting like we want them to. If FanDuel keep the sports going whenever I want, all I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. If you didn't already, Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV's channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. To start off with just Jasmine Thomas's statistical defensive profile at Duke as a senior, 4% steal rate, 1.9% block rate. Just, that's the goods. That's the goods.
For reference, those numbers are very good. Yeah, I mean, she might be the best point of attack defender I've scouted in quite some time, maybe ever. She's up there. I mean, Elena Beard's more of a wing stopper, so in that sense, I can carve out the caveat there. Who are the other ones? What is it? Her, Gabby. There's one other person I usually bring up. Oh, Brittany Sykes. I haven't done full Brittany Sykes one yet. We'll get to that in like a month. But yeah, I mean, her athleticism is maybe the best ever. I mean, her lateral, maybe not the best ever, but like her combination of hands, lateral quickness, burst is incredible. Her ability to get over ball screens and apply ball pressure from the weirdest angles on the drive is so it's so crazy good that there are times when she basically gets a block, like jumping over the person's head from behind, while basically what's it called? While playing it in a rear view pursuit. Her help instincts are very good, even from one pass away or on the emergency closeout. She really competes against post matches. She appears to be, just really what's the word?
Strong.
Yeah, that too. And she's just really physical, even against like bigger players, and keeping them off their driving lines without getting called for too many fouls.
Yeah, one of the best at like mirroring drivers
Yes.
in one-on-one situations.
That's the term.
She's just never out of position, really. Like, she's peeling in with early help from the weak side. She's making plays all over the court and just doing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this isn't. Yeah, like for as much as like a point of attack defender can be a really good helper without like being like, again, like Gabby or Sykes or Horston, that sort of mold. Like this is like probably the best point of attack defender you can come up with, I think, that I've seen. I gotta go through my notes here, which I probably should have done before the pod, but win some, you lose some.
Like I mentioned with the blocks, there's not many guards that could block more jumpers, and like her timing and just how she read the ball in the air was like extremely impressive as well. Yeah,
especially for someone who like we know didn't quite have the core strength or body control to have a decel on the offensive end. To be able to do it on the defensive end is very weird, but also very entertaining.
Yeah,
really uncomplicated player, just really freaking good at defense.
The defense is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, insofar as a point of attack defender could be considered like a role 8, like she's a role 7, I think. Defensive projection, to me.
Seems fair.
Moving to our grade on Jasmine Thomas, what's your grade for her?
I didn't mean to do I didn't mean to do a scale there. I was just trying to buy time while I flip back through my spreadsheet. I got a 5 on her. The defense is elite. Again, it's a roll 7 projection. I am very, very confident she's going to hit a very above average number of her her 3-point jumpers, regardless of, base. She's a very good cutter, so I think that's going to play up. I like how I'm talking in the future tense here. She's a very good cutter. That's what it should be. She's a very good cutter, so I figured it'd play up, and you can even theoretically play her at the 2, even if you don't get the scoring because of the passing. It's very good.
Yeah, I think that positional versatility is definitely there. Like, kind of can play an off-ball point guard role, play an off-ball guard role. I also had a pretty solid 50 grade. This is a starting caliber point guard in the WNBA.
Yeah, and it doesn't take that much to see. Like, I'd have to pull up my like distribution chart breakdown, but like, you telling me like a 70th percentile outcome as a starter on a title team? Absolutely. Yeah. Which almost happens.
For me, I would lean closer to like a soft 5 or like a hard 45. I think I'm lower on just her prospects in general. I could see how this just doesn't work. Like, if the shooting falls off a little bit from where, like, I'm just looking at her college profile, if the shooting falls off and you don't think she can play some point guard, you have some questions about, like, the finishing still there,
Sure.
then you're just looking at, like, a defensive specialist. Like, what's the value of that if you just don't have much else? So I think, like, she has a solid enough floor, but I feel like there's still some downside to where, like, it might not be the most valuable skill set.
Lincoln, you're muted.
Completely fair. It's
Yeah.
a totally fair assessment. There are downsides there, like the ability to score inside the paint is not there, and
Inside the arc.
Yeah. It's just that is definitely something that can keep you from reaching a higher grade
Reverse Courtney Williams.
a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, shooting is the hit tool of basketball, and it is both sometimes not that hard and sometimes very stupidly hard to project the translation between college and pros. Yeah, I mean that's perfectly fair assessment, I guess.
Yeah, so after the break, let's get into her WNBA career, and I also have just
Wait, but first, do you have any comps?
we'll get to that in a
That's
second.
Oh,
We'll
I
get
thought
that
we
in a
usually.
second.
Oh, sorry. I was
We'll get that in a
too-
second.
I was
But
too eager.
we'll talk about some comps.
Sorry.
All right, comps.
What's up?
Comps.
I already gave the Deja Kelly one. My other ones are Ricky Rubio and a little bit less. Rubio, but a little bit less. More of his like elder pro game than like what he was on the Spanish national team. And also what we wanted Veronica Burton to be, which is kind of a cop out because JT was my upside comp for VB back in 2022, but I think it still stands.
My comp is what we want Raven Johnson to be.
I guess.
Just like defensive guard, super strong. Can she make a three and spot up three?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I feel like
She's not a true primary. Like
Yeah, but I feel like
running
the
everything.
shooting is there a lot more with JT.
Yeah, but I would say in terms of like current prospects, like just the physical like frame, how they defend, I would say there's a
guess.
little bit of similarities there.
No, I can see that.
I don't really have any off the top of my head.
Coward.
Yeah, I am bowing out with this one. I'm lost.
This is our most useless episode to date.
I do have a funny list of 5 players that were traded for Jasmine Thomas in her WNBA career. Starting with, on draft day, she's traded for Katie Smith,
Woohoo!
which is kind of funny.
Over the hill, Katie Smith, to be clear.
Yeah. This is 2011
Not Finals MVP Katie Smith.
Mystic Storm trade. Also traded for Aaron Phillips, Shea Petty, the pick that becomes Emma Mieseman, and Olivia Nelson-Adota.
Hey, wait,
So-
she's also traded for the pick that becomes Alex Bentley.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually that's actually crazy. When was Katie Smith drafted?
Yeah,
She wasn't. She was initial allocation
Well, the-
from
yeah, the
ABL
allocation.
to Minnesota.
So
in
she was
98.
traded. She was traded for someone that
No, 98.
was pre WNBA, graduated pre
also
WNBA,
for
and then
Olivia
Olivia
Nelson-Adota.
Nelson-Adota.
I don't know if Olivia Nelson-Adota was born when Katie Smith started playing professional basketball.
She might
No,
have
she
not.
couldn't have been. I just did the math. No, she couldn't have been.
That is the span of Jasmine Thomas's career.
Jasmine Thomas is the W. Kevin Garnett.
A little bit. I mean, yeah.
I feel
Oh
like a
my
good
arms.
starting point for our talk about her WNBA career is for our historical WNBA film watching expert. For you, where does Jasmine Thomas rank among the best guard defenders ever for you?
So if we are talking pure point of attack defenders,
Yeah, but just pure like point.
I was
guard
gonna say we
defenders.
always have to make that caveat because like you have the tier of Gabby, Brittany Sykes, and Elena Beard sort of on their own as like the best court defenders of all time. Among true point of attack defenders, I have basically
Teaspoon.
I don't have enough. I haven't watched Teaspoon enough yet, but I suspect that given the age that she started her W career at, it won't be quite as high.
Did she win like multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards or something?
Yeah, but also she played in the same league as Lisa Leslie, and those were probably misallocated awards.
Didn't Debbie Black win a Defensive Player of the Year?
I think she did.
Yeah. For reference, listeners, Debbie Black is 5'4" and played for the Miami Soul.
Shout out the Miami Soul.
Shout out the Miami Soul.
Miami Soul legend Ruth Riley, as we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, among true point of attack defenders who are on my list for point of attack defense reasons, I would probably say she's in the tier with Brianne January, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I say I am welcome to other ideas. Like I know a lot of people really like Armity Harrington, but I don't see it there. And obviously, there are players who were like elite point of attack defenders, but couldn't like do much else, and so they really didn't get enough playing time to like make their way up the list. But like among players who were good enough to get there, Yeah, I have Jasmine. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna move to her W career. Just like,
oh yeah.
If
If you want to move to her W career, I mean, just starting overall, because she does have a very kind of strange development arc, as listeners might have been able to tell from the menagerie of players she was traded for over her years. I have her basically, if you consider especially how good her peak was and how rare that sort of skill set is, I think firmly a top 40 player, top 45 player of all time. Same sort of range as Emma Meeseman, Allie Quigley. I would say pretty close to Kepi Pondexter in my opinion. Sophia Young-Malcolm, that kind of tier. She starts off in Washington. Draft day trade. I hate English. With Seattle, as Lincoln mentioned.
5-team trade, I think. I don't have all of the details right now, but I'm fairly certain it was a 5-team trade.
Hold on, I have it up here. In a 5-team trade, the Storm traded JT, and the pick that would become doesn't matter to the Mystics. The Storm also traded Aaron Phillips and a irrelevant third-round pick to the Fever. The Mystics traded Katie Smith and just sent him on around to the Storm. The Fever traded the pick that would become Shea Petty to the Storm. The Fever traded an irrelevant third-round pick to the Mystics. That's actually not a 5-team trade. The Basketball Reference just separates every leg of trades like this. It's a 3-team trade.
Yeah, I don't know why they do it like that.
But yeah, she plays with Washington, a team 2011-2012 Washington Mystics, a team
11-57.
Yeah, a team that could best be described as decrepit of talent. And it's hard for a player who is an off-ball point guard to actually do much in there. Still, for a first and second year player of this era, she puts up 22% assists, 19% turnover on like way too high of a usage for her, like 23% usage, and that is admirable. I think for a player like this, on a team like that. She ends up getting traded to Atlanta for not nothing, but not something.
Almost nothing.
She's basically equivalent to like a mid-round first pick in terms of value in that trade, which, hey, not bad considering she was the 12th overall pick 2 years prior. In Atlanta, she's actually fine. She's actually quite good, in my opinion, except the 3-point shot that just like doesn't fall. And because Atlanta was, I will save judgment. I will save judgment on Atlanta's coaching and just say that Jasmine Thomas, after anyone who watched her WNBA her Duke career could tell you, probably shouldn't be taking a whole lot of 2-pointers. Took a whole lot of 2-pointers in Atlanta. Basically, at that point, after her years there, just gets traded for absolutely nothing to Connecticut, and after a couple years of being a middling starter, develops. Who could have seen that coming?
To Kurt Miller.
shout out to Kurt Miller. Turns out he is a good coach for player development at the very least. Her usage rate drops a little bit upon getting to Connecticut, as one would expect. Her 3-point rate increases, the threes fall, and it turns out she's exactly what she looked like in college, which is an off-ball point guard who's an elite point-of-attack defender. Shout out to friends of the pod, the Double Down WNBA podcast crew, who were on the Jasmine Thomas train for years in Connecticut. She was a very integral part of a team that for how many years in a row? Like 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row, was like one of the best dynasties to never win a title.
Like 17 to 22, basically.
Sounds about right. Basically, when John Cole Jones was there.
Yeah. Well, 2018 is the first finals appearance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Math is hard. Years are fake.
Math is hard. Years are... Whoa. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, math is hard. Years are fake. They were still starting Shakina Strickland in 2017 anyway. They were still starting Alex Bentley in 2017. Anyway, yeah, Jasmine Thomas was a really, really, really good WNBA player once the three started falling, and she wasn't asked to do a whole lot inside the arc, which some bad coaches asked her to do, and then Kurt Miller told her to stop doing and just start
Kurt
and start running pick and rolls instead. You don't find a lot of point guards who can pass, shoot, and defend as well as she did ever. There's like 3 of them. Others. Lincoln, how did she go 12th in the draft?
People don't like it's 2010, 2011.
Oh, wait.
Don't like people that can't score inside the arc.
Wait, I forgot our order of operations here. Jasmine Thomas, over her career, she accrues 15 wins above replacement. For reference, that's about half of what Sloot has till today. That's about the same that Allie Quigley had through her career, which I think is a very reasonable amount. Would you like to... The players who were drafted above her, who I can give opinions on later. We have Amber Harris, Jontel Lavender, Tanner Robinson, Kayla Peterson, Tashia Phillips, Jeanette Pollen, Alex Montgomery, and Victoria Dunlap. Would you like to guess which of those are the players between Sloot and JT, to be clear, in this draft? Would you like to guess which of these players has a higher wins above replacement for their career than Jasmine Thomas?
Is it none of them?
That is correct.
Woo.
Tanner Robinson has come pretty close, 14 wins above replacement. Jontel Lavender, who started on multiple decent LA teams. Not that she necessarily should have, but she got to 8 wins above replacement. No one else on that list got above 2. Most of them did not get to 1. Lincoln, how did this happen?
It's Duke. So you get the artificial deflation of statistics. And
we all hated that coach anyway.
Scoring inside the arc is kind of a big thing for point guard prospects pre-Steph Curry revolution. You want to see that. And you just have this love for all these end up being middling bigs, which is a long-standing tradition in WNBA drafts, is valuing a 6'4" rebounding machine over a guard. Because that just happened over and over until about 2019, really. 2021 even.
I mean, some teams still do it.
Dana Evans went 13th in that draft.
Yeah, Dejanay Carrington went way later even.
Dejanay Carrington, future episode.
Yeah. But JT was like kind of consensus 3rd or 4th point guard in this draft. It depends on how you felt about Jeanette Pollen. But you are muted.
We're on a run this episode.
Which is insane on its face, because JT is like the 2nd best point guard prospect in this draft, and it's not particularly close.
Well, yeah. So people were really high on college D-Rob.
Which is fine. It's understandable. Yeah. She was very good in San Antonio before like the league got way better and you had to be able to shoot.
Yeah. And the 3-point pull-up projection just doesn't really seem to be there for a lot of people at that time. But, Sloot makes this meteoric rise later in the year with her insane tournament run and her insane game against Stanford.
Because no one watched her prior.
Yeah.
She literally beat Stanford in the fall. of that year.
It wasn't in
played,
March.
This is
they
March.
played like 4 WNBA players ever in that season, whereas JT played 5 of the best players in the country that season. And so you just have this, oh yeah, it's Duke. We don't really care about Duke. They lost a whole bunch of games. They got beat by 50 by UConn in the tournament. Well, what do we need to care about Duke for? And
They
you
lost.
just have this kind
Yeah,
of
they lost by like
overlooking.
30 or 40 to UConn twice that season. And JT, because she's an off-ball player, wasn't exactly doing much in those games on offense. So it's tough optically, or in terms of optics. And yeah, this is like JT is sort of like the first Duke player of this era, I would say, who like gets drafted and players are like, oh, they can actually play pro, and then you sort of have like a run of like probably too many Duke players getting drafted. Like Trisha Liston, 3 years later, is a first-round pick, and that's probably a little excessive.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, some of these players that we're doing are unexplained draft day falls, where, like, our next episode, Tiffany Hayes and JT are both, like, draft day fallers in a contradiction to Sloot, who was a draft day riser.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, there were some people who had JT mocked as high as 6th or 7th. You know, it's just this solid role player. There's not much star upside. There's a lot of teams that are just looking for star upside in the draft.
Yeah, and there's also the thing that, like, you know, when we go back and we do these scouts, we can see how some of these players get drafted above, you know, better like we talked about last week. Why Liz Cambage is drafted over Courtney Vandersloot. Why the week before Elena Beard is drafted over I'm going to get her name eventually, Lindsay Whalen. You know,
I forgot
why
Lindsay Whalen's. Yeah.
I just said that. Why Ruth Riley goes above Katie Douglas. We can at least see the outlines of them, even if it's like not that smart. But like, it doesn't make any sense with Jasmine Thomas. Like you look at the players above her. Sure, the Xavier duo of Amber Harris and Shia Phillips put up numbers, but like they were not exactly particularly mobile bigs, and they did not do much, I would say, outside of your very standard work the post, finish, grab the boards, which like is fine, but it doesn't do. Jontel Lavender obviously is a solid WNBA player. We talked about D-Rob. Kayla Peterson at Stanford, she's really tall and can hit threes, but she's just in this mold of Stanford wings that like Tara Vanderveer's Stanford was just a mediocre wing factory for like first round picks, and that's fine. They did really well in college. Some of them are good professional players. Nicole Powell, Lexi Hall, good professional players, but like Kayla Peterson was a decent shooter at sometimes and a very poor shooter at other times, and also couldn't hit a 2. She was extremely immobile defensively. Her teammate Jeanette Poland was a very good shooter, but a complete non-playmaker and a defensive sieve against the likes of Sloot, against the likes of who did they play in the Final Four that year? Tennessee? I can't remember. A&M? Notre Dame. Yeah, complete sieve against Notre Dame as well. You have Victoria Dunlap. I kind of get Victoria Dunlap at Kentucky is like, if she's 6'1", but if she was 6'3", to have her as like a 45, she's like, what if Hannah Stuelke wasn't like an elite cutter and finisher? And you can kind of see the outlines of it being very interesting. Drafting Alex Montgomery over Jasmine Thomas is like, that's embarrassing. Like, this is an embarrassing move. We're talking about a player who can hit spot up threes at like a very average rate and is very bad at like everything. Like, what are we doing here? Again, some of these things make sense in hindsight. Other ones are like, did you even watch the players that you were actually drafting? I think in this case, the answer is firmly no.
2010.
2011.
2011. You know, that means they were doing a lot of scouting in 2010. Actually, they might not have been doing a lot of scouting in 2010.
They probably weren't.
Prep might have started about a week before the draft.
But this is the weird.
The night before, just cramming some scouts.
Yeah, I don't remember if I said this before we started recording or after, but I think I said it before we started recording. There's this weird thing, and you guys can see the sort of the planning sheet we have for this series knocked out. We're like setting aside the like 99 ABL draft. Like Katie Douglas is really, I think, the only like unreasonable huge miss in the draft. Like Rebecca Brunson was insanely raw and took a number of years to like develop in the W, but like, you know, you can kind of see the outline of there being some really good posts, you know, as college prospects for that era above her. You know, Lindsay Whalen goes 4th, Candice Dupree goes 6th, Chancho Little goes 5th. She should have gone 1st, but like wasn't a great draft anyway. Like there are basically other than Katie Douglas, basically for the first like 15 years of the W, for the most part, players get underdrafted, but not by huge margins. And then starting basically in 2011 with JT, you have someone who inexcusably goes at like the end of the first, the end of the, or like the mid second, despite being like a clear like mid first round prospect. This happens every year. JT, Tip Hayes, Chelsea, JJ. I mean, there are some external factors here, but there's just no way these players should be going this low, even if you have question marks.
Yep, next week.
Speaking of
Talk
next
about
week.
Tip Hayes out of UConn. Thanks, man. Locked On Women's Basketball. Your first listen every day. Join me next week for continued coverage of women's basketball. Make your second listen Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.